I always say, like, people just want to be seen. And I hope people feel seen by me.
Hey, I'm Just Steve, the podcast, and I've got my friend Brooke Passchier, or how would you want it? How would the fancy way to say it be?
Passchier.
Passchier with me today, and we're excited to hang out. And she's been listening to the podcast, which is great. Thank you for listening, and is a little nervous today because Miss Sue's came out, and Sue always comes with lots of notes, and you're blank sheeted, and I'm blank sheeted, which is that's great. Like that's just how Sue is. So
Well,
it's
I
great
love
that you
Sue.
come as you.
And she's amazing. And so, of course, I had to listen to her podcast on the way out here.
Yeah.
And the first thing is she's got pages of notes. And I was like, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Sue, come on.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. You don't have to have notes. I think she likes to interview me half the time. So that's where the notes come from, right? But I thought it would be great just to reintroduce what we're doing because I was at tennis yesterday and one of the guys was like, hey, the podcast, like, what is that? What is that about? But ultimately, he's like, it's not real estate. It's just life stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, it really, the idea for me was using the analogy of a lens, or that we in life have a different lens, different glasses that we see. Yes, we are both from West Michigan. Maybe we're both grew up here. So we have a similar lens in that story. But in our life's journey changes our lens and how we see the world differently based on the influences of our lives, right? And as we get older, I am 46 now, and realizing those lenses create opportunity for others to learn and grow. And interviewing friends and people, I'm interviewing someone in a week and a half that I've never met. It's going to be kind of cool and different, right? To hear his story and his lens. But so that's the idea, Brooke, right? Is just to understand your lens, where you come from, and how you've gotten to this place in your life, which seems super full. Like when I look at you and I followed you obviously on social media for a very long time, and seeing many, I thought on the way here, all the transitions between the lenses that you've carried, right? You were like a Beachbody girl for a little while, or a coach, right? And like just so many different pieces. But I looked at your bio and it said transformational coach, merging business success with a joyful living. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're in that spot right now.
I'm in that spot, which is so funny that you actually said a Beachbody coach. So it was because that is one of my first memories of you.
Yeah?
Yeah. We were actually negotiating on a deal probably, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the first things that you said to me was, it wasn't Beachbody. It was another, multi-level marketing type of thing. And you said, oh, so the whole multi-level marketing thing didn't work out for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just shattered me right in the middle of a negotiation.
Oh no.
And I was like, it was one of the first things you've ever said to me. And it was at one of those moments where
I was very rude.
Well, we were negotiating. And so you were kind of playing the tactic thing with me.
I do.
I was new and green. Okay. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh man. And so that was one of my very first memories of you, which is really funny that you just brought that up now.
Yeah. So that would be a great analogy on lenses, right? So I grew up without any money. My family did not have that much money, even though my dad worked very hard. And one thing that he did that I sort of resented because we didn't have money was he did multi-level. Oh. And he would always believe that eventually one of these would make us rich, one of these multi-levels. And so that would have come from that lens, right? That like, wait, you're doing multi-level. I can tell you right now that's not going to be successful for you because it was never, it's successful for lots of people and there's nothing wrong with it. But my lens said that's wrong, especially 12 years ago, I was not mature. And so I wouldn't have known any different than to be like, wait a minute, like, yeah. So that's where that lens comes from, right? It's amazing how those things come out in our words and we don't even realize how they're affecting other people then.
Yeah. Well, and I probably wasn't at a maturity level to be able to say that's the lens he's looking at it through.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with me. Where today I would be able to say that. But it was just, it's really interesting how things evolve. And that was one of the very first conversations that you and I had, and probably not another one until 6 months ago when we had lunch. And here we are now. So it's kind of funny how things evolve.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. My agents never liked negotiating with me. I learned that. Once I get into the middle of negotiations, I do turn on a different switch.
I think I do too.
Yeah.
I think I do too. And it's really kind of funny because I've learned my negotiation tactics from agents like you.
Right.
You know, and I also remember one other thing you said to me. You said, I have to strong arm you on this. And I have a tendency to say that too.
Well, you call out. Like, I definitely call out. Like, hey, just so you know, I'm going there with you. And
right. I'm just going to call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah. So tell me about, I'd love to hear you now, right? Your world has come sort of full. I see it as full circle, right? And in this learning of being a real estate agent and doing multiple different things in your life to now transitioning, or really over the last, you're at a bigger brokerage for a while, doing coaching for them, and now you're really doing it on your own, right? I see you, and you're very happy. Your smile says you're happy. So tell us about what you're doing right now and why that brings you joy, and then we'll get into like how you got there.
Yeah. I'm kind of one of those people that everything I learn the hard way.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way, if I can say that. So
say what you want.
Yeah. So it actually does. It brings me a lot of joy. I have always had a professional coach ever since I went into real estate. I didn't even know it was a thing. And I had the privilege of being on a team when I first got into real estate, which was 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I took like an 8-month hiatus because I thought this multi-level marketing thing was going to be great, which was for a minute. And then I came back, joined a team. And when I joined that team came with a coaching company for the entire team, which was incredible.
Awesome. Yeah.
And the minute I was introduced into professional coaching, I was hooked. And so that was just the trajectory of my entire career. Okay. I never really went without a professional coach. Soon after, I went on my own and then grew my own team. And the idea from day one was, I want to coach. I knew it.
From the minute that you were introduced to coaching, or from like elementary, high school when you played sports or something?
No, the minute I was introduced to professional coaching.
You were like, I'm going to do this someday.
Like, real estate is the vehicle. I'm coaching.
Okay.
I knew it. I was like, this is what I want to do.
Wow.
The brokerage I was with also has a pathway to get there.
Yeah.
And I was green. And I also drank the Kool-Aid with the brokerage.
Yeah.
And in my head, I thought that was the only pathway.
Okay.
And I have this.
Their coaching program was
the pathway to get there.
Okay.
And that path.
What was the pathway?
The pathway was grow a huge team.
Yeah.
Recruit.
Yeah.
Grow a huge team, which they would call 7th level.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Keller Williams. It's okay. Yep. It's okay. Like, I started there too. And
which is a great brokerage.
I don't think I ever got 7th level. I got 6th level, right?
Sure.
Like, so,
and replace yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you are ready and you've earned it, then we'll
move you into coaching.
Move you into these types of positions.
Okay.
And so I was working towards that. And I actually grew an incredible team. I loved my team dearly.
Yeah.
I just hated being a team lead.
Okay.
And I just realized this is.
But wasn't that coaching? So how did you balance that in this idea of like, oh, I have a big team. I have agents. I have staff. So wasn't that what you originally wanted, which was coaching, or no? What was the difference between the idea of leading a group of people and then coaching? Because I think that can get sidetracked, right? Where it's like, wait, I think I'm leading well, but am I coaching well? And those are different. Those are different, right?
Yeah. For me, okay, well, I'll be very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think my ego got in the way.
Yeah.
I think I was chasing the numbers. And in real estate, I think that's really easy to do. Everything is very public. And you can get very caught up in being in the number one spot, being in the top 1%, being in the top 5%. And so I lost myself.
Yeah.
I was chasing the numbers. I lost myself through it.
Okay.
I completely lost myself through it.
Yeah. You didn't know at the time?
Oh gosh, no.
Because ego was just like,
I was just chasing. Right? Yeah. I mean, we're talking 70, 80-hour work weeks. My entire life revolved around it.
Right.
And so...
so you weren't leading? You were just trying to just plow that? What was
No, I mean, my team was incredible.
Okay.
But it was my life.
Right.
I mean, they were my friends.
Yeah.
They were everything.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was, I hardly remember, it was just everything. It was my entire life. I mean, I missed weekends with my, extended family. Up at the cottage. It was just go.
So I'm going to ask a question, and it's going to make you vulnerable, which you said you were nervous about, right? So,
well, I'm not nervous about being vulnerable. I actually can't do surface level conversations. That's just not how I'm wired.
Good.
I've just listened to your podcast enough, and you definitely have a way of getting things out of people.
So, what did the ego? How do I want to say it? The ego for me, I'll give it on my side and then I'll ask it from you. The ego for me of becoming number one agent, right? Or becoming X amount of units, X amount of agents, took away from dealing with the personal pain, right?
100%.
And so I could focus on that so that I didn't have to deal with any of my trauma as a child, right? And then what that brought into my world that I was living at that moment. So it fulfilled the line that I told myself as a kid, right? I will never be poor. I will work hard. I will be successful. The I wills when you were 12, right? It provided that. I didn't realize that was not what the world was made for, right? So what did the ego make up for you? Was there that childhood thing that you said, I'm going to get here because of this? Where did that, I feel like the ego or the I'm going to be successful comes out of a trauma or an experience that says I need to make up for this.
Yeah.
What was the thing you were making up for?
Probably a couple things. I do not have like a sob story of a traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
My childhood was really beautiful, actually. I had loving parents. I'm one of 4 kids. Yeah. We were middle class, hardworking parents. But my inner story, my inner dialogue was really ugly.
Okay.
And I still battle it every day. No one will ever speak to me more harshly than I speak to myself, which is why I'm so passionate about coaching.
What did you tell yourself then, and what are you still telling yourself?
Well, I'm much better at it now. Much, much better. But you're stupid. You're not good enough. You never will be good enough. And so anytime anyone had anything to say to me, that was my interpretation. And so even with
the climbing to the top of the charts and having the team. Anytime I would be coaching or have a coach and I would say, show me how to do this and show me how to get there. And they would say, like, I want to coach. I know I'm good at this. I know this is my calling. I feel it in my bones. I know this is my calling. And they would say, you're not there yet. I heard you're not good enough.
You're not good enough.
And then I wanted to be the productivity coach for the brokerage. And I kept hearing, we'll get you there. We'll get you there. Concentrate on your team.
Yeah.
And I kept hearing, you're not good enough.
So that propelled you to do more on your team because you were trying to reach the
I was trying
ultimate
to prove
goal
something.
Of being, I'm good enough to be a coach.
But here's the thing. I've learned this. You'll never be good enough if you're always looking for outside validation. You have to find it within. You have to find it within first. Because if you are always looking for outside validation, you'll always be chasing it.
Mm-hmm.
Always. There will always be something that tells you you're not good enough. And so I had to get quiet. I had to find it within. And so that's my daily practice. So when I say I still battle with it, I become really good at it. Because
at defending those thoughts off.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, every morning my daily practice is, I'm up at 5:30.
Yeah.
The alarm goes off. I'm up. I'm feeding my mind. Yeah. I'm reading. I'm journaling. I'm meditating. I'm praying. And I start every single day off like that.
And when did that begin? Like, when did you decide that's how your practice needed to start? Because that 5:30 is not for everyone, right?
No.
So
years ago, okay. Probably even when years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, years ago, when I still had the team.
Yeah, you started with the 5:30 meditation and writing out.
Yeah.
Was that a coached thing? Did someone coach you to do that?
Yeah.
And then you took that.
Or I read Miracle Morning probably.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you exactly when it started, but it has become a part of me to the point where, my executive assistant, I would walk into the office and if I didn't do it, she would be like, okay, something's off. Like, go back home.
Yeah.
You're not you.
Yeah.
They just knew it. So I've become really good at defending it. But then COVID happened and our industry was shut down for 3 months.
Yeah.
And
felt like 10 years.
Oh my gosh. And I was on the board of directors and
you were doing like 50 meetings a day, right?
Oh my gosh. And they're all over Zoom. And I was on, the ALC, I think that's what it was, for the brokerage. And so meetings for that. And then I still had my team. And so I felt responsible for not only 3,000 agents, the 250 agents in our brokerage, and then my team, and
plus
my family,
a family person.
Yeah.
Right?
And I was also, had just recently been through a divorce.
Right.
And so I was home, I just purchased a home and I'm with my 2 teenagers and we're going through COVID. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And I just kind of embraced it and got quiet and ended up.
It was a good period for you?
In a lot of ways it was. I took a break from the business coaching and I actually got into a program that was a Bob Proctor program.
Okay.
And it was called Thinking into Results. And that's really when I went within. And I started to study me. And I started to go, what is going on? And I just sat with me and thought, what do I want? And that's when I really kind of had this moment of, I don't have to go down someone else's path to get to where I want to be. I don't have to follow like a certain road to have what I want to have.
Yeah.
I can reinvent that. I can do it my way. And so I, at that time, decided to write and publish a book. And so I did that. And shortly after, I kind of put it out there. And I thought, I'm just going to write this book, which was actually like just my own therapy. I wrote it for me.
Yeah.
And I just had to get things out there. And it was shortly after that I got a phone call and said, hey, I don't know if you're recruitable or not, but we're really looking for a productivity coach. So I wrote and developed the coaching program. My only thing was I didn't want to leave my team. And so I met with the brokerage many times, and just so happened to work out that they were looking for an assistant within the office. And I was able to bring my marketing person with me, and the agents on my team could go sell there. And I was going to be the coach there anyway. So it worked out beautifully, where it was just kind of, we could all be there together and we could find our place.
Yeah. How can we step back a second? 'Cause
Yeah.
I think you've said a lot of great things, and I don't want to lose those. One was like getting quiet. How did you, COVID allowed for quiet a little bit more because there wasn't commotion, right, going on, that there was another thing. But I think of those ladies that might be watching right now, or gentlemen, and how would they go about a process to get quiet enough to be with themselves, right? Like what would you, as your, merging business success with the joyful living is your tagline, how would you tell somebody to get to that point where they can get from ego units, activities, to becoming whole again? Where do you find that ability to get quiet? You obviously do that as your morning routine, which sets up a day. But if someone needs to break away from this ideal of like activities to get to their new self, what would you suggest they do? Or what did you do?
I think in every stage of my life, it looks different.
Yeah.
And so I read all the time.
Okay.
And I typically read where I am in life, what it is that I, am interested in at the time. It's always nonfiction. I typically don't get invited to book club anymore because they're like, we're reading fiction, not non. No, I'm kidding when I say that. But, so I'll do that. And then, but, even just this morning, if I can back up a little bit, it's kind of like if you don't learn the lesson fully, it keeps showing up for you.
Absolutely.
And even just by my husband and I, opening our coaching business, I forgot success doesn't happen immedially overnight when you open a business.
You can't open a business and assume all of a sudden people are going to
You're making the same income that you're making, when we're at the top of your game in real estate. And I struggled with that in the beginning. Okay. And I had an awareness. I put my worth on how well my business is doing.
So the ego started playing into it right away the minute the new business opened up.
Yes.
You're like, wait a minute, I'm not successful. The words in your head started saying,
am I worthy?
I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy because people are not hiring me right now.
Right. And then there was this like, should I even put myself out there?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You would pull it back.
I would pull back. So then I would sabotage it.
Yeah.
I would sabotage my own success, and then I would play small.
Yeah.
And then I would prove myself right. See, I told you you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So your mind plays tricks on you.
It's amazing how fast it can do that, right? Where like we did the podcast, like I haven't done one in a couple of weeks, right? And so we recorded like 5 or 6 right away. And I loved it, and I still love it, right? But you put them out there in the world, and you're thinking, like, what kind of interaction am I going to get? Am I going to get likes or comments or whatever? Is this going to hit people the right way? And you're like, but wait a minute, I didn't start this thinking about likes and comments or views. Why am I looking at my YouTube channel twice a day to see if my views went up. This was not about views. It was allowing a friendship to blossom with a person across the table to learn more about them, like, and just to be able to talk, and maybe one out of like the world finds some value in that. Like, great, but like, it's amazing how that ego can play right back into it and be like, wait, what is this about? Like,
Exactly.
how does this play out?
Exactly. And it's the outside validation. And if we're constantly looking for the outside validation to say you're good enough, you'll constantly be chasing that. And so when I started a new business, I found myself doing that same thing. So exactly like with the podcast.
Yeah.
And so
it's all measured, right? It's like, oh, the world wants us to measure these results, and my results aren't measuring what they were supposed to be in my head or some kind of worldly vision of what that was going to be.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, and I mean, I always have a coach. I would never hire a coach that didn't have a coach themselves. Yeah. Like when I hire coaches, that's my first question.
Is who coaches you?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with my coach about this, and I said, I'm struggling, and she said, you've got to sit. You have to sit quiet and ask the question, why do I not feel worthy of this? What is going on within? Like, why is it that I'm sabotaging this? Why am I playing small? Nobody can ever take my knowledge away from me. Nobody can ever take what I know away from me. No one can ever take the desire away from me, my dreams. If this doesn't work out, that's on me. It's because I'm believing a story, or I'm telling myself a story.
Are you giving yourself an out?
I could have been. Yeah. I mean, there were many times where I was like, this has been my dream for 15 years. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And the other thing is for the past 5 years, I've coached hundreds of realtors. Hundreds. I've built a program that's been proven, and then I go on my own and I don't have something to fall back on, and I start telling myself a story. And the mind is just crazy. I also have this beautiful thing called ADHD.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I've learned, is my superpower.
It is.
I'm loving. Yeah. I love it. And I wasn't diagnosed probably until I was late 30s, 40.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, like with the big team, the chaos, I mean,
you loved the chaos, the living in it.
Yeah. I did actually.
Yeah, I did too.
But there was a moment where it was a wake up call, and so I'm getting sidetracked, but I'll tell you about that moment. So this is
yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I think people that watch the podcast know that this is an ADD podcast.
They're good. Okay, good. Yeah, like we're all over the place. Yeah. But there was a moment actually, and it was a very defining moment with the ADHD where I was just running the team. We had just built a house, trying to keep this marriage together that was not going to stay together. Teenage kids. And I remember my son was talking to me, and he stopped me in my tracks, and he just looked at me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, repeat to me what I just said to you.
Mm-hmm. Did you start crying?
Oh, I'm going to cry thinking about that moment. And I said, I can't. I can't. And he said, you never listened to me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, something's got to change. Something has to change. And so I made the appointment to go to Brains right then and figure out what was going on with my head. And up until that point, I had always been on anxiety meds.
Okay.
And we found out the anxiety stemmed from the ADHD because I was always in anxiety mode.
They almost always go together.
I was always in anxiety mode because I was always afraid I was missing something, which I was always missing something. And so they're cousins, but it's like the chicken and the egg thing of what comes first, right? So we had to figure that out. But anyway.
Did you get on meds for ADHD? Or
I did, yeah.
Are you still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though I know how to calm my mind, I am not ashamed to be on meds of it.
That's why I ask, because I don't want people to feel that that is a negative,
not
right?
Not at all. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you can heal yourself and you can do this. And I'm just a believer of if you feel good or if something makes you feel good.
I think of it as any other illness, right? It's like if you're diabetic, you could do a lot of things for your health, but you probably need to be on these meds to help you fulfill that, right? And that doesn't mean that you're ever going to get off of that medicine, but it allows for you to operate at the best ability of who you are. Yeah. Right? And
this is where I'm best for everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, my son doesn't say to me anymore, repeat what I just said to you.
Yeah.
You know, he knows I can focus on him. But the hyper-focus part of it is where it really became a detriment to me in a lot of ways. Okay. Because I would and I still can, even on the meds, I can hyper-focus on the negative real quick.
Which brings in the anxiety, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the inner dialogue of you're not good enough. Like, I mean, somebody could sit there and say to me, you're amazing, you're incredible, you're all these things. And if they said, but
all that goes out the window.
Oh, I didn't hear any of it. Yeah. I had just only heard this one critique. Yeah. And then the story starts going. Yeah. You know, even my husband will say to me, I'm going to share something with you, but I don't want you to go down the rabbit hole. And I'm like, well, you already know that that's not going to happen.
You started that.
Yeah.
You started that wrong.
That just went out the door. You know, because he just knows how my brain works. I mean, the minute, the minute something is said, I'm like, like it's happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How would he say that better? How would he start that? Like with Ellen Grace, I have to do that too, right? Where it's like, wait a minute. Okay. I need to bring this up. Is this the moment to bring it up or not? Because like we need to work on this, which you're brilliant, but I see this in you, and the flaw I'm picking out of you is because of love. It's not because of like fixing you or whatever. It's just like, hey, I love you so much that if you were to work on this, another level would come out, right?
Yeah. How could he say that better? I think he says it well. Yeah. You know. And I know he comes from a place of love.
Right.
You know, and
so
it's not his, you know, problem that I interpret things the way I interpret them.
Right.
You know, I think, it's the way.
I think that's some of this podcast, though, for me in Ellen Grace, that we have learned is to communicate lens, right? And so to say, like, what you're saying right now, I'm taking this way because of 46 years, right? And so you don't get what you're saying. Like, what you're saying isn't trying to be hurtful or isn't like, but I hit this spot. You just hit this spot in my 46-year journey.
Yeah.
Because of my lens, right? And then it's like, oh, okay. No wonder you had that like pushback on me, right? And it's like, but that's where I come from.
Oh, 100%. Right. And then, you know, and you're in a blended family just like I'm in a blended family. So you date in your 40s, you get married in your 40s, and I'm 46 as well. Yeah. Yes, I'm 46. I have to think about that. And, you know, it's like, man, you get married in your 40s and there's a lot there, you know, and there's a lot to unpack. And so there's a lot of communication. I'm sure my husband is very tired of the constant communication. You know, but that's how we have to because we do come from different lenses. And it's, thank God, he's just a beautiful and patient
human, and he loves so well. And that is something that we've had to work through with me, and that's one thing, I have my strengths in our relationship. And that's one of his strengths in our relationship is he loves so well. And just with all the personal growth and development that I've done and the 15 years of constantly working on me, I just know that my outside world is a mirror of my inner story. I'm always, the lens that we look through, the lens that we see the world is really what's going on within us, right? Our perception of the world is what's going on within us. So if I'm not loving me, I'm going to have a really hard time receiving love from other people.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, you said earlier, why do I not feel that I'm worth this, right? Which is love. Like, why am I not willing to accept love?
Yeah. Yeah. And, it could come from thinking I was stupid. I was one of those people in grade school, high school, my head was in the clouds. I've always been a dreamer. I was voted class airhead, 8th grade, and as in my senior year. So I truly thought I was stupid.
Right. And those words don't go away.
Oh, no.
Right.
No. I mean, I truly thought I was dumb.
Did you then choose that persona for yourself at 8th grade and at 12th grade?
I probably believed it.
Yeah.
And so I probably
acted it out.
Absolutely.
Even. Right. Yeah.
Why?
For
I
sure.
mean, yeah, I'm sure I did. You think I'm stupid anyway, so I might as well be.
Yeah.
And with the ADHD going undiagnosed, I mean, that long ago, it was not really something that was talked about,
Right.
And being one of 4 kids, I was just kind of held to the same standard, and which is fine, but I felt very stupid. And so I partied. I just kind of masked it by kind of playing the role of, I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. It's not important to me. I'm just going to go party. So I'd sabotage it instead of studying. So yeah, I think in a lot of ways I probably did play that role until I was just tired of it.
Yeah. But 46 years later, your brain doesn't release that. Like you have to each morning,
every day,
do your power morning, right? To be able to tell your brain like that 8th grade and 12th grade person is not the person I am.
100%. You have to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it does not matter. Complete re-engineering. And they say, you won't make a change unless you are consistently doing repetition or you have like a huge impact in your life. And so I do consistently do repetition. And I would probably say, I was doing repetition for about 15 years, but actually it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago this week on the 20th, my mom was killed in a car accident. And she was in the accident on January 13th and she passed on the 20th. And she was the one that was...
She was a beautiful woman.
Oh my gosh.
Like her soul was...
just a light.
Yeah.
Gosh, she was just... Yeah, just incredible, and she was like kind of the person that everybody knew. You couldn't go anywhere with her. I mean, everybody knew her. Everybody knew her.
Because she brought out the best.
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't know her well,
Thanks
but
for
the
saying
little
that.
bit that I did, I was like, wow, she was a cool lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was incredible. So yeah, we're at 10 years, which is so weird.
Yeah.
But that was a impact, right? So I probably didn't really realize how horrible my inner dialogue was while she was living.
because she was such a light. And she was such a huge
Because
part of
she
my
didn't
life.
let you say those things to yourself.
She just was always like, you've got this, you're great. Even as a single mom, she was the one I knew I would never like hit rock bottom. She was always there to make sure I was okay. She was always there to help with the kids. She was just my biggest cheerleader, my biggest fan. She just spoke life into me. And then when she was gone, I had to become that for me. And so I had to kind of learn how to do that.
Yeah. Was the son comment at the same time? Around the same time? The son saying, I don't hear you, Mom. You don't hear me.
It was probably a couple years later.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a couple years later. I'm trying to think of the time frame.
Yeah.
And I remember the spot that my son said it to me in the house, like in the kitchen. Like there are those moments, you know, those defining moments of life where you like, you can remember the smell, you can remember the place. And when my mom passed, I was not in that house.
Okay.
So I think it was just a couple years later, but it was, there are like a few years in my life that, I mean, it was like, I mean, it was a whirlwind. I mean, it was like, I would say within 5-6 years, it was like my mom passed. I sat with my best friend from high school as she passed from cancer. I went through a divorce. I mean, you name it. It was like life event after life event after life event. And it completely changed me.
Help people understand that's going through that right now, that there's life after. Because it doesn't feel that way, right?
Yeah.
When you're in that 3-year journey, or I mean, divorce along in and of itself is a 2 to 3 year process. I always sort of say, or I think of by the time you're like, hey, this isn't happening anymore, making that decision to move towards not being married anymore, then that whole process of trying to figure out what that looks like, and then this like whole new experience of like, okay, I'm on my own now.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm responsible for my children, but I don't have another adult I'm responsible for participating in life with. I'm participating in life with myself now. That is a 3-year process in and of itself, right? But then mom and work and others, help those. What would you say to those folks that are in that space? Because now you just redid your fireplace with your husband. You did a project with your husband,
Yes.
which I would say is like a miracle in and of itself. Like to do a project with a spouse is significant.
Yeah, which was really funny because we started it. By the way, it was a big project for those people. It was a big project. I think our ceilings are 20 feet tall.
Yeah,
and so we did. We even put that together. We kind of joked in the beginning of the weekend and said, well, we hope we're still married after this, you know. And then at the end of it, we were still loving each other. We are by no means perfect, and I'm not going to claim to be, but I'm telling you, like, I am so blessed with this man. Like, I can't even tell you. I thank God every day. Like, I cannot believe that this is my life because he is so incredible. I get emotional thinking about it. So what would I say to people? I would say, you know, I've had to give myself a lot of grace. I've had to forgive myself over and over and over because, you know, we do the best we can with what we know at the time. And so it's okay to forgive yourself. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to look back and say, yeah, it probably wasn't the best decision, or you probably didn't handle that really well at that time. But when you know better, you do better. So you can forgive yourself for that. You can do better now.
And as far as the grieving of the losses and the divorce, and you have to grieve, and there's no
I
time
love
frame
that
on
you're
it.
saying it in that word, right? It is the divorce and these. It is a grief, like it is a loss, right? And it's a great loss. And so to grieve a great loss has to be part of your story, right?
Yeah, and even if it's for the better or it's your decision, it's still you're grieving. You're grieving the life that you thought you were going to have, or nobody wants that. Nobody desires to have that, right? It's horrible to go through.
Yeah.
And my husband and I kind of joke and say, going through a divorce is much harder than being divorced.
Mm.
But there's no time frame of going through it, and go through it. Just go through it. And I had to really take some time because I was not perfect in that marriage. I'm not going to claim to be. It takes two, and I could sit here and I could make him the villain, and I could be, I could make myself out to be perfect. And a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you don't learn anything. And then you just walk into another marriage or another relationship being the same person and having the same problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just to self-reflect, grieve what you lost, grow, be better. Someone once said to me, our pain is not for us to keep.
Mm.
Our pain is for us to go through, to learn from, and then to share with others and help them.
Yeah. What are some methods that you have used to forgive yourself? Like, is that your journaling, or like, again, for anyone that might be watching, what would be the tool? Is that counseling? Like, which pieces have you had to put in place to say, like, I forgive myself for my piece of a divorce, or I forgive myself for my piece of not showing up for my son until he called it out on me, right? Like, because that's a there's many times where I'm like, okay, like I've had that conversation with my young kiddos now. It's like, hey, I am not a perfect dad. I am doing the best dad I can be based on what I was taught from my family and from the history I have. I'm coming at this broken, right? Yeah. And so I'm trying to be the best dad, but I am going to fail. And you're probably going to go to counseling and talk about all the failures I've had because I've done,
Yes.
done that, right? But so I'm going to do my best. And that allows me to forgive myself, right? And saying those words is like, I'm showing up the best version of myself I can be. It might not be what you need me to be, but that's where that. So what have you done, or what are the things that you're doing? I mean, think of that 5-year journey. What were those things that you had to, how did you go through that process of saying, this is grief, and now I need to let that out of my soul so I don't carry it with me?
If I'm being truthful, I probably still carry it. I don't think it ever goes away, but probably all of the above, therapy, coaching, journaling, prayer, meditation, and, just continuously learning. I think I'm just constantly trying to learn and grow and go within. I think the day I'm done learning and growing is the day I just don't wake up.
Yeah.
And so this is, as far as I know, I don't know if there is another life ahead of me or there were lives after me. I don't remember them. So as far as I know, this is my first human experience. And I'm just doing the best I can with that, with the knowledge I have.
Yeah.
This is my first time raising teenagers. This is my first time building a coaching company. This is my first time, I could be completely messing up this podcast, but this is my first time sitting here with you on it. You know, I don't know. I'm just doing my best.
Do you say that to yourself? This is my first time. Is that like a thing that you use in your coaching? Or is this just something that just came out?
Maybe, I don't know.
I love that. I'm going to use that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Like because you think you should know, right? Like I've never had 16-year-old boys.
Right. This is my first time raising 16-year-old boys.
I was a 16-year-old boy, but I was never I didn't because of my history, I didn't have their same interactions. I didn't have their same opportunities in life. Like, you know, and so it's like, we're talking about jobs right now with my 16-year-olds, and one just got his driver's license like a week and a half ago. And so he had my car all week while we were on vacation, and now he doesn't again. So he doesn't have a car. And he's like, when am I going to get a car, Dad? And I said, when you get a job, son. And he just can't, you know, he's processing that, but he's like, well, how much do I have to work? And I'm like, so that you can pay for stuff.
Right.
Like I know that some of your friends don't have to. Maybe their families have enough money to do so, or maybe that's their choice. But like for me, it was like, no, this is about being responsible. In 2 years, you're not going to be in my house. So I got 2 years to get you to learn how to do a job. But again, I don't know. Like, I love this is the first time of raising twin 16-year-old boys. Yeah. When am I ever going to do that again? I'm not going to do that again. This is like, it's going to be good or bad. I don't know. I'm just going to do.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I question every step of it. Like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if this is what they're going to talk about in therapy one day. I mean, there's many nights I go to bed and I go, well, they're going to talk about today in therapy. And my sister said to me, oh no, they're going to talk about you in therapy on days you don't even know. Like you will. And I'm like, you're right. We just don't know. But we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
I really think we all want to do good. And we all, like, I love how you say we're looking through different lenses. You know, I think the biggest word that I just constantly have in my head is just grace. Just give grace. Give other people grace. Give yourself grace. Mm-hmm. Like, if we know better, we'll do better. You know, but we all have like these inner stories and this lens that we look through. And some of us have a lot of pain that we don't even know where it came from, you know? And so.
Yeah. I mean, our first interaction, I was a complete jerk, right? Because I didn't, I'm sorry. Like, I feel horrible.
Isn't that funny?
I was a complete asshole.
But isn't that funny that I remember that? That I'm like.
Because it hit your thing, right? It hit your 8th grade and 12th grade is like, I'm not good successful or good enough. And this guy that thinks that he's ultra successful is pointing that out in me, right? Which that came from me being not successful, right? In my brain, me saying that is ultimately trying to allow my ego to win so that I'm telling myself I'm better than, right? Which did neither you nor me good, but because of our life journey, it hit you enough to remember it, and it hits me now to think, man, what? I was a turd.
But that is the dialogue that happens with people all the time. Mm-hmm. And so that's where grace comes in.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where, like, I could have never talked to you again. You know, I could have been like, you jerk. Like, that could have ruined this moment right here.
Right.
You know, but I don't know your story. Right. I don't know why you said it. 15 years later, now I know.
Yeah.
12 years later or whatever. I don't even know. Like, who cares? You know, and so.
I do a little bit, right?
Don't. It's
great.
Because I'm telling you, I know
this.
Learning
there process,
are probably so many things I have said to people,
right,
that I have no idea that
the impact.
Yeah, that I've probably hit something. I mean, I'm a pretty bold person, and I have a tendency to just say what's on my mind. I've probably hurt a lot of people's feelings and have no idea.
Yeah.
Which crushes me because I would never intentionally do that.
Right.
You know, but there's times on social media that I'll look and I'll go, I lost some followers, or,
so-and-so unfriended me, or, I left that brokerage and nobody has interacted with me from there for months. You know, like
when you thought you were in relationship and friendship.
100%.
Right? Oh
yeah. And
that gets me all the time still.
That gets me big time.
Yeah, where it's like, wait a minute, were we in relation? Did we have a friendship or not? Like or was it only based on me giving you something?
Yes.
And now that I'm not giving it to you, we're no longer connected? Oh,
Yeah, that's
new.
Yep.
Yeah.
So those are things that, but then I go down the rabbit hole and I start telling myself a story about it, right?
Yeah, it's my fault.
Yes.
Right. Instead of their part of the equation.
So same thing. What did I say? What did I do? And
Yeah.
I'm sure there are times that I have.
Yeah.
But am I going to chase every single person that hasn't talked to me or unfriended me or unfollowed me and say, what happened? No, I'm not.
Yeah, you can't.
No.
I love that line. And I think you're going to use it now, but this is my first time. In coaching people, right? Because I think that sets up then the word grace. If you understand this is my first time, then I can have grace. Doing the podcast, I'm learning how to be a better host. And so, because I've never hosted a podcast, right? And so I did one with Steve Kick, and the guy, I had a comment on it, and the guy said something, or girl, I don't know, like you can't tell if it's a guy or girl, but basically something like, I can't watch this guy because he says or reacts all the time while he's interviewing. So I need to calm my ADD brain down to let the person just talk. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I responded with, new at this, thank you. Like I would have
perfect response.
Of course, they said it in a not nice way, and I responded nicely. And then the next comment, he called me a narcissist, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a first. Like, okay, cool."
Which is a complete reflection of what's going on with him, and nothing to do with you.
Yeah, but it was really interesting to think of this as like, okay, I'm going to give that person grace because they don't know me, right? They literally watched what he basically said. I can't watch this, and then he or she are reflecting on what I did or didn't do wrong. So that's interesting. But I love the first time analogy in it. It's like, well, yeah, like it's a first. Like I didn't go to journalism school. I barely graduated from high school. Like how would I, and so. And
you're doing the best you can with what you have.
That you're in, right?
Which, by the way, I have to tell you, you are doing so many things with this podcast. I listened to the one with you and Steve Kick all the way through. And I don't know Steve, but I was so impressed with him. Yeah. I reached out to him after listening to your podcast. So you're like connecting people.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was nervous. Even the clips about divorce, the shorts, and I was like, I said stuff. And that's new, right? To own that world, right? And it was like, wow, that was vulnerable of even, because he asked me like what happened, and I gave some of my story in that. And I was like, wow, okay, like I have not put, like certain people know that bubble of you, right? But then when you open it up, it's very different to open it up.
Which is why you said, I think you're a little nervous coming in here. And I was like, I listened to your podcast and I saw how vulnerable everybody is. So, but that's what you asked for when you did this. You wanted people to take the lens off and show up as their true selves. And sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. You got to be willing to own it yourself, right? Like if you're going to coach, you got to be able to be coachable. And so, one of my greatest, if I think of the hundreds of videos that I've done over the years with different people, one of my greatest was actually, I was not the one that was interviewing. We did a December series where we interviewed nonprofits. And I said, Jeremy Mullins was the videographer at the time. I think I had a number of different ones. It might not have been Jeremy, but we sent a video crew out to interview. And I did some of the interviews. But still to this day, we did an interview with a gentleman. I didn't make that interview. He started the biggest food bank in West Michigan. It ended up being bought out by Feed America. But we did not realize at the time that he was dying. And he was crying on the interview and telling his journey and his story of getting from where he was to starting the food bank and what it did in West Michigan. And they played that video at his funeral.
Oh my gosh.
Like 3 months later. And I will watch that video at least once a year to remind myself, you never know the impact you're gonna have, right? Like I didn't go, I just created an opportunity within my brokerage or team to have people, and we believed that giving back was what we needed to do. And in that, this isn't, so I think some of this also is just like for me thinking about these people that I'm meeting with and hanging out with in the studio is like, how do we create something that allows them to have a legacy storytelling moment, right? And where can they help others through that? So yeah, one of those legacy questions, right? I don't remember where I was, but in the last 6 months, I went through some kind of a study or something, and one of the questions was, "What do you want people to say about you at your funeral?"
Oh man.
That question, right? And that legacy. And I always thought, well, someday I want to. I went through my ex-wife's dad passed away. He was a very big piece of my life. His name was Ed Behrens. He owned a big insurance company, and he taught me about business and just leadership in business. And went to his funeral, Grand Rapids Christian High, like 5,000 people, like just one of those kind of legacy people, right? And I always thought, okay, someday I want to be that. That was a little bit of an ego thing too. It was like, when I die, I'm going to have all these people telling their story about Steve, right?
Yeah.
Now I think it'll be smaller, but anyways, it pushed me to think through like what I always thought. Well, all these agents that I've helped over the years will come and talk about, and I don't know what that is anymore, but I hope it's more about like my 16-year-old boys coming, right, and participating and like, yeah, like dad was, messed up at times, but ultimately he loved us, right?
Yeah.
That space. So tell me, what do you want people saying about Brooke?
Oh my gosh. Oh, isn't that crazy to even think? Like, yeah, it's interesting that you say that because at my mom's funeral,
Yeah, 10 years ago.
You don't realize the impact people have on other people until they actually die,
Yeah.
And at my mom's funeral, we looked around and went, oh my gosh. I mean, it was standing room only.
Yeah.
I think there were 1,400 people there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just absolutely insane. I want people, and at one point I probably thought, oh, she left a legacy and, she opened this. I mean, I would love to open a foundation. Of course, that's probably my big why of business. But she led with love. I think that's just really all there is love. And I hope my impact on the world is that it was for the good, that I left a positive impression. I always say, like, people just want to be seen. And I hope people feel seen by me. That's what I want. I just want people to feel seen.
Mm.
And
that you acknowledged their presence when you were in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I just want, I want people who are in my presence to feel love and to know they're seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're doing a good job, just so you know.
Thank
already.
you.
Like, I think that of you already. Like when we hung out for lunch for the first time, because Sue Pastor, we just talked about, she was one of the biggest people for us to know each other. I don't know if you know this,
no.
right? Yeah, we were golfing This would have been, 5 years ago or something like that. And she's like, you need to meet Brooke. And I said, okay, well, she's like, I can't tell you to go meet Brooke, but she's in the world that you were in, at the place you were in, and you guys are like the same. Like you're just a male, female version of the same
Isn't
people.
that funny how many people have said that?
Yeah.
That like you and I are the female male version of each other.
Yeah. But we've never really connected.
Right.
And so she's like, you can't call her because like, you can't be like, oh, I know what you're going through.
Which you could have.
I could have, but, and then I think we ended up playing golf together at some point because Sue probably put us together.
Yeah.
But I've seen the journey over since that period, and I think you've worked your way to that where the world you're in right now of running your own coaching company and I guess the social media that I see you putting out is the Brooke that wants to show love and grace to people and wants to participate in life with people that ultimately do want to be seen, right?
Yeah,
like I feel like that's what you're trying to attract.
I think so. I think that there was such a huge time in my life, and I actually think I'm just starting within the last few years to own who I am fully without apology.
Is that age? Like,
Maybe.
Is that because I obviously in that space too, right? Maybe because we're like twins and we didn't know it.
right. 46, right.
Yeah,
It could be age.
Yeah, I didn't know it. But how, like, is that, you think that that's just at a certain point we've done enough in life that we've matured to a point that equals that?
It could be. Yeah. Like I'm not hiding anymore. When we sat down, I said, nothing is off the table. I mean, I've been broken. I've been broke. I've been through divorce. I've been a single mom. I've made so many mistakes. I've had so many failures. My inner dialogue has been horrible. And I have hid for so long. I've put on a mask and I've tried to put on this my life is so perfect persona, right? And what that did was I was included. I was included in circles and I was in community, but I was so lonely. It makes me so emotional. I'm at this, number 3 that I feel like I'm going to cry. I was so lonely and I didn't know why. I was always around people. I was always felt like I was at the top of my game, but I just was not connected.
With yourself or with others?
Both.
Okay.
And that is exactly what it was. I had to get connected with me. I had to find out who I was.
Yeah.
I had to also
to allow others to be in relationship with you,
to be seen. Yeah, I had to. I also had to find my spiritual connection. I had to connect with God, and I had to, in order to connect with myself, and to just say, you know what. Take the mask off. It's okay. Like, we're not hiding anymore because I'm done. I'm so tired of feeling alone when I'm surrounded with people.
Yeah. Is that the mask? Is that because we live in a social media world? Do you think, does that add to the mask?
Perhaps, but I think my mask was on way before social media.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you taught yourself that with that 8th grade and 12th grade moments,
oh, yeah.
Right? Like, okay, I can hide in being the ditzy one. That's an easy place for me to hide. And then I don't need to excel or push myself. I can just, this person's an easy person for me to skate through.
I mean, I remember even like being in high school and girlfriends sitting around and having like deep conversation and feeling so uncomfortable that I would be like, oh my gosh, and I would have to go find a party. like not being able to have like close
You had the ability, but
relationships.
you didn't feel like you could.
I don't know. I was so just disconnected, just completely disconnected. It's just a real interesting thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're a doer. Think of you as like someone that just does stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why have we not done the foundation? Tell me what, if that's the ultimate dream, why have we at 46 not, what's holding us back from starting a foundation?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The foundation of what I said I want to start?
Yeah.
Oh, this is happening.
Oh, you've started it.
It's not started, but
Why?
oh my gosh, look at you.
Yeah.
See, this is what I would say to somebody as their coach, right? Like, why are we not doing this, right?
Yeah.
Why
If
have
it
we
is
not
like
started?
the ultimate goal, why are we not accomplishing it at this point?
Okay, well, I guess you just pushed me to.
Tell me
better
about
start
what is
doing
the
it.
foundation for?
So the foundation is for single parents,
Okay.
personal growth and development, to show them that there is a different path. And it's for a few reasons.
Yeah.
My mom would probably kill me, but I would love to call it Lorette Marie. She hated her name Lorette. She wanted to be called Lori.
I think it's pretty.
I love it.
Yeah, I love
know. Lorette Marie. And
so the Lorette Marie Foundation.
yeah. And the reason is I was so lucky as a single mom. I say I was a single mom, but I had my parents, were right there.
Yeah.
But
you still had to
support.
go through it yourself.
Oh, I went through a lot of
you
things
still have to
myself,
own
but
it.
they were right there. But I remember, I had to live at home for a little while because I had both kids in daycare, and it was $1,200 a month. And I mean, my son is now 22. My kids are 22 and 19.
Yeah.
And $1,200 a month 22 years ago was like, what the heck? I had a college degree, which I have no idea how I got through college, but somehow we did.
Partying.
Yeah, I mean, you would think I had a doctorate for how long it took me, but whatever.
You have it.
Everybody
the
has their
there.
own path, right?
Yeah, paper's there. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, but I had a college degree. I was working full time, and I was a single mom. I had to live at home because daycare was so expensive. I remember I called the state. I said, I just need some assistance with daycare.
Mm-hmm.
Like my daycare expense is a mortgage. I have to be able to get like an apartment at least and live on my own. And I was laughed at.
Mm-hmm.
Like you will never be able to, like, you're not getting assistance.
Yeah. You made too much money.
I think my salary was $23,000 for a family of three.
Yeah. There's a missing middle, isn't there?
So, and I was paying, and I said, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'm going to be really honest with you. You would be better off quitting your job and staying home with your kids.
Yeah.
And I said, you're telling me to stay home, quit my job, and be home with my kids and live off assistance. Now, I'm telling you, I do understand that there are a lot of people who do not have the privilege to be able to live with their parents like I did.
Right.
I 100% acknowledge that. I was very, very lucky to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
That is the only reason I was able to get ahead. Because had I not had that, who knows where I would be?
Yeah.
So that's why I want to be the Lorette Marie
Foundation
for other people,
for
to be able to allow them to get ahead. Like
so
I had
you
the
would create
opportunity
resources for them, or you would create coaching for them. What would you
both?
What would you do?
Yeah, I would love to just give them the opportunity, like, for personal growth and development, and even if it's like business suits and interviews and showing them how to like interview for a job, whatever resources that they need in order to better themselves, to get ahead for their families.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge believer of not creating someone's path for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge proponent of somebody telling me what it is that they desire.
Yeah.
And we create a path together.
Yeah.
That's my coaching style.
So have you ever heard of ship it? Have I ever told you that, like, analogy, the ship it analogy?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'm going to mess it up. I think it's a Seth Godin thing. and he wrote like this little pamphlet called Ship It. The idea was, so the storyline he gave was about the difference between Apple and Microsoft back in the day. And ultimately, Apple's iPod compared to Microsoft's Wave I don't remember what it was called, but they came up with one too, right? So the audio player back in the day before phones, right? And so talked about Apple just put it out there into the world. They shipped out the iPad, not iPad, their music player before Microsoft, even though both had the technology at the exact same time. And we didn't know that, right? But at the same time, so one was full on committees trying to make their player the best to release it. The other one just released it. And the difference between that ship it mentality of, yes, now Apple has to put out a new phone every year, but some of that is just them going about the process of cleaning up what they left off. And like people are like, well, why didn't they do that compared to Samsung, who has a better phone? But it's like, but they were the first to put the phone out. And so we all still use that platform. And as long as they innovate and create and they ship it on a regular basis, some new update that makes it better, we're satisfied. We don't care about this one actually being superior.
Right.
It's just they're willing to continue to innovate, and they don't get bogged down with making the best. They get bogged down with getting it out to the world. So if we're shipping the foundation today and we're sending it out in the world, what do you need help with? What if our audience is listening and says, I am that mom that needs help, or I was that mom and now I am a financial advisor and I love helping those ladies get stable and I am this. What do you want? How do they connect with you, and what do they do to participate in your new foundation?
Yeah. Let's do this. Let's have them DM me on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's my name, Brooke Passchier.
Yeah.
So because this is, I love how you push me. I mean, it's like, my goodness, here I am going, okay, I got to get the coaching business in place, which is completely in place now. And I'm so proud of it. I am so proud of our product. It's so amazing. So if you are somebody that wants to get on board with this, DM me on Instagram. I would say if you're somebody who is in this position, also DM me on Instagram. I've created I don't know if your listeners might be interested in this or not. But
you say it, and if they are, they will reach out.
Okay. I've created a transformation journal, which is actually prompts for journaling of what I've done, along my 15-year journey of growth to make a transformation. I still ask myself these questions.
It's an actual physical journal, or that you have produced?
I have created it. I can send it to them in a PDF form. So
it's not a physical.
No, I can send it to them in a PDF.
They can print out.
Yep.
Okay.
So they can just DM me transformation, and I will literally just send them the PDF.
Okay.
So they can find me on Instagram and just say transformation, and I will send them the PDF of the journal.
Okay.
So that would help. That'd be a good start.
Have you made the journal into a book?
I've printed it, but I don't have it in a book. But we could do that too.
You should do that.
Yeah.
And you should just sell them at cost or something.
Look at you.
I
love this.
So I have not, but I have a journal that's a men's journal, and similar, where it's got the 5 things that you should ask yourself each day. What are the things I'm going to accomplish? Who am I today? What things did I say I was going to do that I did do? And what was the greatest moment of my day yesterday? Right.
Beautiful.
And so but it's so simple. And I often will give it out to other men and be like, you need this book. If you're trying to figure out your journey or your world, take this men's journal and just do it for 30 days, right? Just commit 30 days. Every morning, just spend the 5 minutes, and that might start your morning journey, right? So just think about that.
I love that.
A PDF is hard for people. They'll be like, okay, where's my printer?
Yeah.
And it's just random sheets of paper now.
Yeah. Nope. Okay, it's done. It's done.
And it's so easy now. This
I mean,
AI
it's already
world,
done. So all we have to do is just
just send it to a publisher. And
which I've already published a book, so we can do that easily.
Yeah, or you throw it in Canva, and then the Canva can print it, right? Like it's so easy. But just think about that. But okay, so
I'm leaving with a very large to-do list from you. So thank you. I love this. I love it.
I think the difference in the to-do list for me in that ship it mindset is not to get overwhelmed with the list. It's just do the first thing and send it. Like by communicating we're doing this, we're sending it out in the world. And by giving it voice, then the world can accept it or not. Mm-hmm. And then I then need to choose if I accept it or not, right? So Ellen Grace has been pushing me to do the consulting thing, right?
Yes.
And so we've put that out in the world. I haven't spent a lot of time pushing it, right? Which I need to do more of. But for me, it's okay. Like I'm gonna invest money, dollars, resource, time in this going out into the world. And if the world accepts it and wants it, then we will start interacting with it. If not, that might be something that just sits on the shelf until which time the world says this is that moment. And I don't know what that moment is, right? So putting the foundation out into the world, or anybody that's listening, like whatever that idea might be, it's like without giving it voice, you're keeping it for yourself where the world might need it.
Right. I agree with you. We can't control the timing.
Right.
But we can control what we do with it.
Yeah.
So if I can say anything to you, though, if the world doesn't accept it immediately, don't take it as a sign that the world's not accepting it.
Yeah. Because you don't know when it's going to be that timing for the world, for your, like, you might not even be prepared, right? It's like, oh, okay, like I might not be prepared for the foundation, but the world might be prepared for it. And so I then need to grow into it, right?
Right.
And so I think that's coaching, right? That idea of like, okay, like you might not believe that you're ready, but it's so desperately needed that you will rise to the occasion if it's time.
Right. You put it out there.
Right.
It's interesting too, because in my head, the way that I work, I'm all over the place. Yeah. But when it comes to work, I'm very linear, you know? So I'm like, I'm going to build this first, and then I'm going to build this, and then build this, you know? So. Yeah.
And I didn't start this podcast to bring up the subject of divorce a lot, but it seems like it's coming up. And so I think in West Michigan, we tend to be quiet because that's what we were taught, that there is a sin there that was created by that, which is divorce. And because I was sinful, or because of the world of sin, I messed up, right? And so we stop these ideas of foundation that support that because we're afraid of giving it voice, right? I'm afraid that my kids go to a Christian school and all of a sudden that school is not going to be friendly to me because I'm talking about divorce, and that's not allowed at that school, right? Like, and so this idea in which, okay, like I'm putting myself out there in the world that the world in West Michigan doesn't like this conversation. Like we aren't supposed to talk about this conversation,
anything.
Right?
It's so, I'm so with you on that. And I would say it's interesting because I don't know I know West Michigan. I don't know about other parts of the world. Right. But West Michigan, when I say, is like a conservative community.
Yeah, which I love. There's nothing wrong with that.
We choose to be here. Yeah. We're adults. We're 46. Yeah. We both said that, right? So this is clearly our choice to live here and raise our families here. But that really does go back to like the whole I don't want to be seen thing too. And because there was so many times in my life where as a single mom of my two, I remember literally saying in my head, like, they are never going to be able to say, like the outside world will never be able to say,
oh, well, they come from a single family home.
Yeah.
Right. They will. So I would just grind to be able to give my kids everything. And probably overcompensated, to be truthful. Because I never wanted anybody to ever be able to say about my kids, oh, they come from a single family home.
Yeah.
And I never wanted my kids to feel that either, because I was so afraid of the judgment. And then now we're in this blended family. I've got 3 beautiful bonus boys. And so we've got 5 kids. And I think you have 7. Do you have 7? Oh gosh. I'm like,
And
so
we're younger than you.
Yeah,
We don't have, they're all still home. We don't have any gone. Yeah. They're all still home.
We range from 11 to 22. And when all 5 of them are home, like they were just all home for a week over the holidays. We were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
which
we're
is
all home every Thursday, Friday, Saturday together. It's with 2 dogs and a cat.
We're always adjusting, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that Josh and I were not aware of is how little this is actually talked about.
Yes.
And how few resources are out there. And so when you're in a blended family, you're like, I wasn't aware of this. I wasn't aware of this. This isn't talked about. Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this to happen. And who do I go to? Who do I talk to? Who else is going through this? Holy cow. There was one person last summer. Josh and I were at a birthday party for someone in our neighborhood. And this beautiful woman was there, and she found out that we were a blended family. And she had been in a blended family for 13 years. And she was just so sweet. I had never met her before. And she just came up, introduced herself, and was like, there are not a lot of resources out there. You have a lot that's going to happen that you're not going to be aware of.
Yeah.
Let me help you. And she just poured into me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Gave me resources, gave me like told me what communities to join, what books to read. And I have to tell you, like, there are not many people out there like that. But you're so right. Like the divorce, the blended family, churches won't even acknowledge it.
Right.
And I don't know about in other areas of the country or wherever, but not in West Michigan.
Right.
And so, there's this there's another mask. Who's going to judge me? Who do I talk to?
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, we just stay here, like in our family, and try and figure it out. Where I've done a lot of challenging things in my life, but being in a blended family there's nothing that compares to it. And I don't say that because we don't have beautiful and amazing kids and my husband is not incredible. I'm learning more about me in this blended family.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, that was a blind spot. Okay, Brooke, you got to work on. We got to work.
Yeah.
We got some work to do there.
Yeah. I mean, it's back to that first time, right? I say that to my boys all the time. Like, I didn't expect to be here, right? I didn't expect to get remarried. I didn't expect to have 7 children I'm responsible for. I am trying to figure it out.
We're all trying to navigate it together.
Yeah, and some things are great and some things aren't, but we're gonna flop through it. But yeah, I love the lady, and we're gonna be together, so we're all gonna figure this out, right?
Yeah, and I have to constantly be saying to myself, like, these 3 boys did not choose me.
Yeah,
their dad did. They're probably still grieving the idea that their parents aren't together. And they have never talked back to me. They are incredible kids. They are amazing. I love them dearly. But they're, and I also have to ask myself too, like, if my own biological kids did that, would it bother me as much? Like, there's so many times you just have to stop yourself and ask the questions. But you're in your own home too. So there's just so many things that come up.
There's so many layers of it.
Oh my gosh, there's so many layers.
Yeah.
So I'm actually glad we're having the conversation now because when else do people hear about blended families? And so that's something that Josh and I are really talking about because we're both in the coaching space about talking about bringing into the world.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's not talked about.
Right. So I'm glad that the foundation is starting.
Yeah.
I really am. Like it is something that I'm learning is necessary, and some of even why we started the consulting together, because of people coming to our house and saying, can I sit at your pool with you two and just ask questions? And you're like, yeah, but they don't tell you why. And then you're there and they're explaining where they are in life and saying, like, I see that there is something beyond where I am now. How, why, where do I get there? Is it okay for me to want that? Right. And it's heartbreaking. And yet, like, you're like, wow, how do I, this is very I take this as a great honor that you're willing to, is that my phone? Oh, I think I'm ringing. Sorry. It's got to be Ellen Grace, like ringing me 5 times in a row or something. But ultimately, I think that we are always, when you're willing to be vulnerable, like putting out the foundation, it allows people to come in and ask the questions. But you get pulled back and like, am I able to answer the question? Like, what gives me that right?
Well,
right?
That's just it. Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing is we're both doers, we're innovators, we're big thinkers. Yeah. You know, our head is like, my head is, I don't want to speak for you, but my head is always in the clouds. And I've learned that that's my superpower because I'm a big thinker.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then you get these great big ideas. And then the minute you act on it, that self-doubt comes in and it goes, are you good enough? Who do you think you are? You know? And then it's like, what are people going to say? And then it's like, you just kind of have to go, no matter what people say, you know, you are worthy of this. You can do this. Like you are, you know, but I love that people want to go sit with you and Ellen Grace and say, you know, can I do this?
Yeah.
Because I know that you're the voice that says yes.
Yeah. If that's what you want, right?
If
that's your choice. Like, own you. Right?
100%.
Yeah.
If you have like a dream that was placed within you, I just am I'm of the belief that was not by accident.
Yeah.
And if the dream was placed within you, so was the ability to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what a cool experience this has been to, I think of the 10-year anniversary of your mom's passing.
Yeah.
And then to hear about you starting your foundation in your mom's honor. Like, what a legacy she has created in you being her daughter. Like,
thank you.
That is, I can't imagine being a dad and finding out that my kids, after my passing, have honored me in a way to create something to help others because of what I did for them. And that I really implore you to do this. And I ask anybody that's listening and participating to come alongside of you. I see us in 2 years from now being at the ball that is the nonprofit event to financially support this foundation.
Oh, that's
and writing a check.
Really beautiful.
And so in 2 years, let's see that happen where we're helping more people, me writing you a check, but you doing this thing that you have envisioned probably for a very long time.
Yeah, it's been something that's been on my heart.
Yeah.
And probably that little voice saying, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And here you are saying,
you're at a perfect spot.
It's time, which is what you do at your poolside.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap this up, is there anything that you would want to encourage or to communicate with people that might be listening that you haven't yet?
Oh, gosh. I would just say to just, yeah, I would say everything that we've talked about is just exactly what I've wanted is the message, right? Just let the past go. Forgive yourself. Give yourself grace. We do the best we can with what we have. And I really think that is the key to being able to move forward. You cannot move forward if you're still reliving the past every day. There's not one person on this earth that is perfect. And so if we can just all love each other for our flaws and learn from each other and show up as our authentic selves, wouldn't it just be so much better? The world, just take away the judgment and just show up with grace.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do every day and just be better for that and just stop caring so much if someone's judging me or what their opinion is, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter at all. The only opinion that matters is the opinion we have of ourselves.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I feel seen by you coming all the way out here to Grand Haven to do this with me. I really, you jumped on it the minute that I said come, and you did. And I think that this has been one of the coolest. So
You're
you didn't
amazing.
have any notes. You came out with your authentic self, which is all we ask for, right? So audience, thank you for participating with Brooke and I today. And yeah, please reach out to either of us if we can be of support. If there are other people that you think could come onto the podcast that you think would be someone that could add a voice or a lens, we'd love to hear from them. Also, if what we've said here resonates with you and you think could resonate with other, please like and share it so that we can get the word out about this foundation and about just life. Life is tough, and you need to give yourself forgiveness. Because I'm going to use this thing all the time because it's your first time.
It's your first time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.